Oh, welcome to the DTS Fitness Education Podcast. I am Ben McDonald, and I am here with the main man, fellow Mancunian, and now lives in Australia, Kyle Riley.
So there might be a bit of an Australian twang as I'm speaking. I think I've lost a bit of the Manchester accent. It's not as strong as yours anymore, mate. So
I'm not surprised because you say data and water, and I'm like, what is that all about? It's data and water. You know what I mean? You need to have a word with yourself.
I'm surprised the Canadians can even follow the podcast, though, mate. You
know, they get about 30%, mate. 30%'s good. So, Kyle, just a little bit of background about you. We've had the intro prior to coming into the actual podcast, but you're working for a company or work with a company called PH360, which is a total approach to health and wellness based on your somatotype or body type, whether it's ectomorph, endomorph, mesomorph. Obviously, it's a little more complicated than that, but just to give the guys a little sort of general overview. So you're based out in Australia, flew out there from Manchester, loved it, never came back. Are we good with that?
I'll add in a little bit on because I feel like somatotypes gets lost sometimes, especially with the old way we used to classify somatotypes. So usually when people hear body typing or somatotyping, they kind of think, oh, that's kind of been debunked. So really just to throw in that one of the biggest things we're looking at doing is we're measuring the skeletal body. So we're measuring the length of the jaw, the thickness of the skull, the thickness of the wrists, and then so that the body typing part's one layer, and then from there we'll put in hair color, skin color, eye color. So we're actually quantifying the phenotype of an individual. That's the big thing, because people get lost on body types sometimes. So I just wanted to throw that in
there. Beautiful. I was just trying to keep it simple, mate. Do you know what I mean? But if you want to go... And I just did the course with Kyle. He flew over for the CanFit Pro convention, and he ran a course down at the DTS Fitness Education Centre, funnily enough. And it was phenomenal. Real eye-opener for me. And I looked at some of that stuff. I thought, wow, how do they know that about me? Just from taking measurements, looking at my eye color, doing all these different components. Found it really interesting. So I thought it was outstanding. And we'll do some links to the website and all that sort of stuff, so people can really look a little more in depth at what it is that you do. So what we're looking at is we're looking at nutrition. We're looking at a little training. Whatever your sort of thought process is, Kyle, with question number one. Question number one is this: what's the best way to get lean? What's your opinion and what's your thought process, my man?
Right. So body composition, as we know, it's a bit of a minefield. There's loads of different opinions. What I'm finding is, and what I'm starting to observe over the last few years, is we're kind of going through cycles, and we'll see it in health, we'll see it in fitness. We've started off with the calories in, calories out, and then as the lifestyle as medicine thing became more popular, and we started to look at the body in more of a systems biology approach, like a top-down integrated approach, we started to realize that there's more going on than just calories in, calories out. But then what happened is, with that, the message got a bit confusing, because with hormones and genes and all these different things that was coming out as to what's the best way to lose weight and maintain muscle, we got the paleo diet, the keto diet, everyone starts coming out of all these different things. And then the message starts to get a bit muddy and confusing. So what I'm noticing now is people are going back to energy deficit in an attempt to make things really simple, which I completely understand. But in that, we're going to lose the nuance and the complexity of the individuality of the human body. And this is essentially what I do. This is what everything we do is all about, is understanding the individual. So if someone asks me a question like, what's the best way to get lean or build muscle or lose fat? The first thing I'm always going to say is, wear the lens that everybody is an individual and everyone's unique, and everyone will need a completely different approach to get the response that they're looking for. So thermodynamics doesn't change. We do need calorie deficit. However, the human being's interaction with thermodynamics, with that energy deficit, is going to be different. So for example, there was a research paper that looked at twins. So they paired twins up and they overfed them for 100 days. Which
sounds like my sort of study. You know what I mean?
So I don't know how they got away with that, but they overfed these twins for 100 days. So they checked the BMR, they overfed them, they put them in a calorie surplus, the same calorie surplus with a different set of twins. And at the end of the 100 days, some twins only put 4 kilograms on, Some twins put 12 kilograms on, and then on average there is let's say a 4 or 5 kilogram weight gain. So the point I'm making is thermodynamics stays true. Yes, if you're in a surplus, you're going to gain weight, but the inter-individuality of the human being and the many different variables as to how we digest food, assimilate food, how we regulate our metabolisms, we're all different. So we can put 100 people in a calorie deficit, and one person might lose 10 kilograms. One person might only lose 1 kilogram, and then you're going to get all this variance in between. Some people don't lose weight at all. And this has kind of been the argument in the industry for so long is it just about the calorie, or is it more than calories alone? And I kind of sit on the fence in the middle and say, well, yes, thermodynamics is a thing, but we've seen it, and you've probably seen it yourself. And even let's step away from the research. When you look at just out there in the field, I worked at the Biggest Loser Health Retreat here in Australia, where we had a controlled environment. So it wasn't the TV show. It was like a spin-off from the TV show. So it was like we had the general public coming in. It was for long-term health, and we had them locked in the gates. So people would come into the retreat, we'd lock them in the gates. They'd be there in a controlled environment for 4 weeks at a time or whatever it might be. And I was doing scans on people to measure the body composition, and everyone was eating the same food, doing the same exercise, in the same environment, doing the same meditation, sleeping in the same log cabins in the beautiful natural light outside. And some people would lose 10 kilograms, some people would lose 4 kilograms, some people wouldn't change at all. And that's what left me scratching my head to say, well, what the hell's going on? Unless they're sneaking McDonald's over the fence, or they've got, Snickers under the pillows or whatever it might be.
Airdropping it over the top. Like, what's going on? Because we're all following the same program. We're managing stress. We're doing exercise. We're eating healthy food that's calorie controlled. Why are we seeing such variance in each individual? And that's what led me into what I do now, which is looking into epigenetics and personalized health. So to make it super simple, the point I want to make is, number one is everyone's different. So if you're trying to follow a nutrition plan that your best friend's on, or what the magazine says, or what the expert says, and it's not working for you, it's not because it's your genes. It's not because it's your body. It's not because there's something wrong with you, because that happening when you follow this whole, well, it's just calories, so if I just go in a deficit I should lose weight, and then people don't, and then they're like, well, I must be damaged. So the message I want to get out is, well, you're not. It's just that you've not found the right thing for your body. So first thing is awareness. First thing is understand what's right for you as an individual, and then follow the right exercise, nutrition, and lifestyle plan that's right for you, not what your best friend does. Nice. Oh, mate, that sounds good to me. So when you talk about, is it calories in, calories out? Is it individualization? The answer is yes and yes.
Yeah. The answer is, it always comes back to it, and it's not as sexy as people want it to be, but the answer always comes back to, and you realize this, it depends. It always depends on the individual. It depends on, the current health. It depends on, we'll talk a bit about this today, but even the weather outside can change. The seasons can change our insulin resistance and how we respond to carbohydrates. So there's so many variables that can actually control how we build muscle, how we burn fat. But again, I don't want to complicate it, and it doesn't have to be complex at all. Whether you measure it, whether you quantify it and understand how different you are through actual measurements, or you just be aware and say, right, I'm going to try this protocol. I'm going to try this exercise program because I enjoy it. I'm going to try this nutrition program and see how I go. And if you get a result, great. And if you don't, say, right, what can I change and what can I try now that's different, and follow a bit of a trial and error approach. Even without quantification, even if you just have a lens and an awareness of, I need something different from someone else, and don't fall in the dogma of, I must follow paleo because that's what everybody else is following, and then beat yourself over the head with your grass-fed steak until you finally get a response. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, if people just had that awareness alone of we're all different, it'll take the stress off and allow people to explore and find what's right for them.
Beautiful. I like it. And Kyle, there was a point there where you mentioned the word epigenetics. So for guys that are listening, can we just explain what epigenetics is?
Yeah. So epigenetics is the science of how the environment controls gene expression. So it's really fascinating, because at one time we looked at genes and it was all about the gene, and it was this whole thing of, if you've got the obese gene, you are going to be obese. And if you've got the diabetes gene, you are going to get diabetes. And what we realized was over the years is that, well, lifestyle is medicine, and it's not all set. It's not all built with it. It's not all predetermined. We actually do have an element of control. So the science of epigenetics is now showing that, yes, we have the genes. Yes, we have the blueprint to maybe be predisposed predisposed to certain conditions. However, it's your lifestyle and environment that controls what genes switch on and what genes switch off. So the good news about that is research is now shown, and leading biologists say 95 to 99% of the chronic disease we see on the planet is lifestyle related and down to our environment. And only 1 to 5% is down to the gene itself, meaning we can control our environment. And even if we do have that obese gene or whatever it might be, we can still control the environment around us to switch that gene off and express good genes. So it's
Nice.
It's quite empowering. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how that would be, mate. That is excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. So when you look at clients, what's been your biggest challenges and how do you overcome them?
So the big one for me was exactly what I said before. It was seeing one client get an amazing result. So, you go to university, you do your studies, you get the best research in things like body comp, and it's like, right, let's do HIIT training because HIIT training's got all this research behind it. And, let's do high protein and this, that, and the other. And you put a client onto that and they get the best result ever. And you think, yes, I've cracked it. I've got the weight loss equation. I've got the body composition equation. This is it. And you start applying it to all your clients. And some people get amazing results and some people don't change. That was the big thing that left me scratching my head and going, well, what's going on? Because it worked with this person here. It's the best research. It's the best literature. This person follows it. They get a result and this person doesn't change. So often we go, well, maybe they weren't doing it properly. Maybe they weren't in a deficit, or maybe they were, cheating on the diet or whatever it might be. But for me, I used to ask myself the question, well, what is it I'm missing? Is there something else that I'm missing about this person? And that was the question that led me to learn more about epigenetics and learn more about things outside of exercise and nutrition. Because as I mentioned before, epigenetics is the whole environment. So the whole environment controlling gene expression. So often when we talk about lifestyle as medicine, or we talk about weight loss, or we talk about building muscle, we talk about exercise and nutrition. And you've heard the saying, it's 80% nutrition, it's 20% exercise. You can't outtrain a bad diet, all that kind of stuff. But what's really important to understand is the social groups you interact with, your workplace, the stress you're under, the sleep that you do or don't have, all of these things are actually a part of your environment. So you could be eating the right food, you could be exercising every single day, but if you go into a job every day that's causing you stress, or you are hanging around with people that you don't like, or you're in a relationship that's causing you stress, that's having an impact on you on a physiological level, that's influencing your gene expression and can contribute to the weight that you're holding around the midsection or whatever it might be. So it was asking that question of, what is it I'm missing about this person? Like, what do I not understand about them? What can I find out more about this unique person that's standing in front of me, that led me to ask more questions, look at potentially more assessments or whatever it needs to be, to find out more of the picture about the person so I can give them a better answer. I think
Nice.
that was the big thing.
Oh, that's fantastic, mate. And do you know what I found really, really interesting on the course? Like there were some components that were fantastic, and some components that I'm still bouncing around in my head and having a little think about. You know what I mean? But the big thing for me, and something which is really sort of easy to control to a certain extent, if you have a certain amount of flexibility, is the chronotyping stuff.
Yeah.
Where everything is like, this is ideally, this is when you should eat, have your main meal. This is when you should be drinking, like throughout the day. Do you want to speak to that a little bit for us, Kyle? Because I found that crazy interesting, brother.
Yeah, it's really good. So chronobiology is such a fascinating science, and the research is out there. Like there's a lot of research. When you start looking at the literature, it's all sitting there, but for some reason, nobody's talking about it. And it's insane. So chronobiology is the science of understanding how time affects the body. So the body likes to be on certain cycles and rhythms. So we've got our 24-hour light dark cycle where we'll follow the sun and the moon, and we'll, as the sun rises, we'll increase our cortisol, and as the sun sets, we'll increase our melatonin, and it helps us sleep. So our body works on these rhythms. But what's really interesting is that timing will not only affect our central clock, but we also have what we call peripheral clocks in our body. So clocks for our liver and clocks for our digestion and all these different things. And what we know is when you align your central clock with your peripheral clocks, i.e. eat at the right time of day, exercise at the right time of day, sleep at the right time, etc., it puts our body in homeostasis. And when we deviate from that, when we create desynchronicity to that, so let's say you are having a burger at 3 a.m., you're exercising at 1 a.m., and you're sleeping at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we see this with shift workers. And when you look at the research on shift workers, we see lower life expectancy, we see increased risk of cardiovascular disease, increased risk of cancer, the longer that people are in shift work. So again, research out there, we know that if you're not following your body's natural rhythms, that it deviates you from homeostasis, it adds stress to the body, and it can contribute to disease.
Just hold on a second. Because I'm going to keep pulling you up here, Kyle, because you're going epigenetics and chronobiology. And so when we start talking about homeostasis, when we talk about homeostasis, we're talking about keeping everything on an even keel and nice and level in the body.
That's it. So the reason why I like to talk about that is because whether we're talking about weight loss, whether we talk about building muscle, whatever it is, we're actually always playing around with homeostasis. So the body is always working around the clock to keep us in balance. But the further we deviate from what our kind of neutral or our balance point is, the more the body's got to recorrect itself to bring it back in check.
Yeah.
So in the short, that's fine. That's just adaptation. But if we chronically abuse that system, that over time is what contributes to disharmony in the body and disease. So when I talk about it in terms of timing, this is where, so we were talking about chronotypes before, one of our assessments that we do, we can actually look at who's an early bird and who's a night owl. And I would say this is one of the bang for bucks, not only for health, but for body composition. If you're an early bird, you will naturally do better dealing with stress, cortisol levels, blood sugar regulation in the morning. So you can exercise in the morning and you'll feel great. You'll have naturally more amounts of energy in the morning. You'll feel fine. Whereas a night owl, for example, they should be delaying their stress response in the morning. So they should be actually chilling out in the morning, not stressing the system. We know from our assessments that people that sit on the end of a night owl are more predisposed to things like metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes and things like that. So we want to be lowering cortisol in the morning. We want to be balancing out blood sugar in the morning, allowing the digestion to finish off doing the things it's doing. But if you stress them in the morning, then you're interrupting all of those things. So our morning boot camp for a night owl is actually putting more stress on their system, increasing cortisol. And there's some really interesting research actually looking at AM versus PM training in early birds and night owls, and actually showing that an early bird will have a lower cortisol response in the morning, whereas a night owl will have a higher cortisol response. So in simpler terms, essentially a night owl getting up in the morning is going to have a higher cortisol response, and then we train them and increase the cortisol even more. It's putting more stress on.
I find that really interesting, mate. I think that's fantastic, and something that people they lose that sort of, not that they lose it, but they just don't recognize it. It's like I thought I'd utilize the stuff with a client that I have, and I measured him up and all this, that, and the other, and I went through the results with him. And I said to him, so I showed him his chronotype and what he should be doing at what times. I said, so if you look at this here, my mate, I said, if you just want to avoid napping at this time. And he's like, wow. He said, mate, he said, you know what? Every now and again, he said, I have a nap at that time and I wake up feeling terrible. He's just like, mate, that's fantastic. You know what I mean? He just ties in.
And it makes so much sense. Like, it's like we said before, you don't feel like waking up at 3 a.m. and eating a big meal. It doesn't make sense to, because your body's going through different cycles. It's the liver's clearing. There's different things going on at different times of day. The body loves to work on a set rhythm. So when you disrupt that rhythm and put something in place from the environment that's not meant to be there, it creates a stress in the system. So it's the same with food timing. It's the same with exercise. You can use this all the way through. So yeah.
That's excellent. And the body only has one way to respond to stress, eh? It's just exactly the same response, whether it's physical, emotional, perceived, like the body still responds in the same way.
That's it.
Crazy, mate. That's fantastic. So I suppose what we need to do is, my friend, is let's give people something tangible that they can use. So what are your top 3 things a coach or trainer should focus on for the biggest result? So top 20% of interventions giving you your top 80% of result.
Right. Number 1, I'm going to say, is behaviors and support. The way the coach supports the behaviors and motivates the client. Because it doesn't matter how good the exercise program is. It doesn't matter how good the nutrition program is. If the person isn't going to follow it, then you're not going to get a result. So if we're talking about bang for buck response, we need people following the program. So what we know is, and again, it's back to the conversation of personalization. Different people are motivated in different ways. People communicate differently, as we know. So for a coach or somebody that's working with a client and helping them with body composition, It's about being able to build that rapport and motivate someone and support someone in the right way. So we know that some people are absolutely driven by competition. So if you want them to exercise, you make it a competition. You set up leaderboards. If you want them to eat better food, you give them a challenge on the food as to the way they do it. But some people, you'll challenge them and it'll make them freeze and it'll make them dig their heels in, and they'll get super stubborn and not want to do it at all. And those are the people that will need more support. They might need a bit of a community group because they like to be around people. They're motivated by family and friends. So we might need to get them in Facebook groups. We might need to be calling them midweek to see how they're getting on. Some people just need a bit more of that community feel. Whereas some people don't care about people. And as long as they've got the Garmin watch and they're tracking information and they've got the science and the logic, they don't have to speak to a single soul, and they're happy with their, as long as they've got the ones and zeros and they can objectively quantify things, they don't care. So the point I'm making is, if you're a coach, we have a tendency to fall into, I'm going to coach this person the way I like to be coached. Yeah. And that was one of my mistakes when I first got into the industry. I'm the ones and zeros, like the science, as you can probably tell, like the information. And I would teach and coach my clients in that way. So everyone that would sit down, I'd give them the in-depth explanations, and I'd be, if I give them all the information, they'll just follow it because it makes sense. And then I don't have to ring them midweek and I don't have to connect with them, because as long as they've got the information, they'll just follow it. So then that would work great with the clients that loved information and could just follow information. But the clients that needed connection and community and support, I was giving them none of that. And they would just drop it off the wagon. They were coming in weeks later. I'd say, how are you going with your food program? And they'd say, oh, I've not followed it. I go, why? It was all there, written down on a piece of paper. It's simple, just follow it. So realize over time, well, that's the way I like to be coached, how I'm motivated. I like the figures, I like the science, but not everybody responds to that. So being able to understand people's needs when it comes to communication and support, and then providing that so you actually stick to the program long term, I'd say is the big one. And
excellent.
Then number 2 is chrono. So chronobiology is the, if we're talking about, and I really like this question, because the whole question of how do we focus on the 20% to get 80% of the results, as a practitioner, that's our job. Our job is to do no harm. It's how do we get the best response from the minimal dose to help this person get to where they want to get to. And this is why individuality is so important, because it's about reducing the non-response rate so we can get maximum response for less stress, let's say. And this is where timing makes such a difference, as we've spoken about, because it doesn't take a lot to put, like, in terms of behaviors, in terms of the effort required. If you're the type of person that, so to give you an example, we'll do a nutrition one. Nutrition timing matters, and no one's speaking about it. So there's been research looking at type 2 diabetics, and they'll do the same calories. So both groups are on the same amount of calories, and they've done 2 meals a day versus 6 meals a day on the same calories. And those that were on 2 meals a day had improvements in their blood glucose levels, had reduction in body weight, in body fat, in fatty liver reduction, insulin sensitivity on 2 meals a day over 6. So same calories, 2 different groups, one eating 2 meals a day, one eating 6, and the people that had 2 meals a day had a better response with their diabetes versus having it over 6 separate meals. So that's nutrition timing. Now, is that Kyle saying everyone should eat 2 meals a day? No. Again, it's down to your individual chronotype. Some people do really well on 5 meals a day. Some people do really well fasting and having 2 meals a day. And then there's people in between. Again, it depends on you as an individual. But when you know your chronotype and you know how many meals a day you should be having and what time to have them, what time of day you should be exercising to get the best response, how you should set your day up from a work point of view based on different hormones at different times of day so you get the best response. When you understand timing, it's very little effort to get maximum results. We've had clients where we've not changed their exercise, we've not changed the nutrition, we've just changed the timing of which they've done it, and they've gone from plateaus to losing 10 kilograms of body fat just by changing the time.
Nice. Now, I'm in. I am in. I'm going to change everything now. Chronotype, like, that's me done. If I lose 10 kilograms, that's fantastic. Mind you, if I lost 10 kilograms, it would obviously all be muscle. You know what I mean?
You're not about to lose there, is he, mate? So,
so we've got one. Like, we've got one, and we've got 2. So we've got one. We've got number 1. Number 1 was individualization.
So number 1 was support. So number
1
was
was, sorry.
Get it, making sure that you've got the support systems around you that map to how it is you're motivated and need support. So if you're the type of person that loves the data and the science and you don't need hand holding,
Yeah.
and you just want the facts and the figures to follow so you can quantify it, then get that type of support. But if you need community, because there's people out there that need oxytocin, that need connection, and if they're on a program on their own in isolation, they will fall off. They need people around them to do it with. So even if you're a client right now listening to this and you're looking at your own health journey, even if you don't know what type you are, just have a think to yourself, am I the type of person that needs to be around people and needs support and needs connection? Or do I just need a Garmin watch and never speak to another human being again and I'll be quite happy? Like, just that awareness, it makes a difference.
So we've got support, we've got Chronotype.
Yeah, we've got Chronotype. And I'd say number 3 is personalizing the intervention. So if we're talking about getting 80% bang for buck from 20% effort, it's about doing the right type of training for your body, eating the right foods for your body, and doing the right mind stress management things for your body. So whatever the intervention is that you're working on, exercise, nutrition, like, stress management, whatever it is, do the right thing for you. So as an example, there was a really good study, we'll use exercise for this one, where they got people that were more power-based, so more fast-twitch fibers. They gene swabbed them and they looked at 15 different genes that were associated with either being a power-based person or an endurance-based person. Right. And what they did is they trained them. So they got the 2 groups, separated them off. They got the power people to train power-based training, so heavier loads, less reps. They got the endurance people to train endurance training, so higher volume, more reps, less weight. And then they mismatched the groups. So you got the power people to train endurance and the endurance training people to train power. And what they found was at the end of the study, 84% of the non-responders were found when you mismatch the groups. So this was just looking at 15 genes. So what that says in when you just look at it simply, that means if you're a power-based person and I've got you as a client and I'm trying to help you with your body composition or whatever it might be, and I'm training you high volume, high reps, there's an increased likelihood that you're not going to get a response from that type of training.
Right.
Whereas if you give you the training that's right for your physiology, you're more likely to get an adaptation and a response from that training.
Nice. And that was 84%.
Yeah.
Crazy.
When you actually, they found them, yeah.
That's fantastic, mate. So if you do stuff that actually is directly related to you as a person, whether it be the way that you need support, whether it be the timing of things, whether it be the type of training that works specifically for you, then that's like the secret sauce, so to speak.
Yeah. Literally, if we're doing the thing that's right for our body, we get the best adaptation with the minimum amount of stress, which is exactly what we're looking for.
Perfect, mate. That's fantastic. So if we've give the coaches a little bit of something, let's give the clients a little bit of something. So what's the number one thing a client can focus on to keep on track?
I would say finding the enjoyment in the things, whatever the intervention is. So it's because, again, it's not the sexiest message in the world, but it's about consistency. Like with any behavior, it's about consistency. So yes, to take it to the next level, it's about finding what's right for you, but ultimately it's about starting. Like, even if you don't know what time you should be training or what the best type of training is for you, it's about finding a training methodology that you enjoy so you can at least start to get some consistent training in. And then once you've got the consistent training in, see how your body responds to that. And if it's working, great. If it's not, then we can start looking at, well, how can we optimize it? How can we personalize it? How can we take it to the next level? But if we're not getting those foundational layers and those foundational habits in place of, this is a part of your lifestyle. This is the big thing. We're not exercising just to lose weight. We're not, and it can be a part of the goal, that's fine. But how long do you want to be at that weight for? How long do you want to have that body composition for? How long do you want to have that look for? The answer is obviously going to be, well, I want that for the rest of my life. It's not just for the wedding. Yeah. It's not just for the family gathering. There's a reason why we want the body composition to be what it's going to be. And if you ask any client in the world, well, how long do you want that feeling for? Well, I want that feeling forever. So if you want that feeling forever, you need to be able to put things in place in your lifestyle. That means you're going to continue to do those things forever. Because this is the thing, your genes adapt to the environment you put them in. So not only is it that we're all different, but who you are right now is different from who you are tonight, tomorrow, a week from now, 6 weeks from now. So if our genes are constantly responding to the environment around us, then our body's constantly adapting and changing based on the environment we expose it to. So if you aren't consistently exposing your genes to regular exercise or good healthy food, then your expression is going to change to unhealthy, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So the
100%.
point
Yeah.
I'm making is that sometimes we get lost on the health journey to think, well, I want to lose weight, so I'm going to put these extreme habits and behaviors in place to get to that point of whatever the weight loss looks like or the body composition looks like. And then when we get there, because it's unsustainable, we can't carry it on. So then we fall back into old habits, and then our genes just look at the new environment and go, well, now you've exposed me to this environment, so I'm going to change my outside, my phenotype, and now I'm going to change, my shape. So the point is, you've got to constantly be putting yourself in an environment for your genes to adapt to whatever it is, whatever your dream body is, your dream look is, your dream health is. So whatever behaviors you're putting in place, you need to be able to do them forever. I know that sounds really scary and maybe overwhelming for people, but like this is why it's got to be enjoyable. It's got to be sustainable. It's got to be things we can just take bite-sized chunks over and just layer over our life. It's not about getting it all perfect. It's not about creating this optimal, perfect environment around us right now and being able to live that forever. I think this is just the journey of life, is just working out how we fit these things in and how we kind of, evolve into the best version of ourselves.
I like it, mate. Consistency is key. Consistency is key.
Not the sexiest message, but it's what we need to do. It's what we need to be focused on.
Well, at DTS Fitness Education, we believe in, our vision statement is longevity and pain-free living for everyone. So, I mean, it's a journey, like you say, mate. It's an ongoing process,
Yeah.
Brilliant, mate. So, yeah, do you know what? That has been phenomenal. It's been phenomenal. So what's going on with you, Kyle? What are you all about at the moment, brother?
So a couple of things we're doing right now is we're just getting this message out there about helping people understand that they're different. And it's okay that they're different, and it's okay that they might need a vegetarian diet, or they might need a paleo diet, and just really helping to clear the confusion of that message. Like our stance is everyone's right. There's research behind paleo. There's research behind keto. There's research behind being vegetarian. There's research around all of these different things, but it's just about applying the right thing to the right person at the right time. So a couple of things we're working on right now, obviously, is we have an app and we have an assessment process where we're able to quantify people's phenotypes so we can measure them up non-invasively and actually tell them about the chronotype, tell them about the nutrition, tell them about the exercise that's right for their body. So that's something that we've got in about 120 countries around the world right now for people to access.
What's the name of the app, Kyle?
It's called PH360. So the engine's called PH360 and the app itself is called Shay. So Shay is your smart health assistant that takes all of the information that's collected in the assessment and gives it you in a really bite-sized, user-friendly way with meal plans and recipes and little tips for your brain and things like that. So that's for the client. That's something that the client can get access to. They can be measured. They can actually measure themselves if they want to, non-invasively, and get access to their own personalized health. It's like their own user manual for their body.
Brilliant. So they can get Shay on the App Store.
Yeah, but to get once they've got Shay on the App Store, they need to get an assessment completed, whether they do it themselves or go and see one of our health professionals, and they can do that at PH360. So PH360 is where you find that information.
Excellent. And that's ph360.com, yeah?
ph360.me, M-E.
ph360.me, M-E. Excellent.
All about you. And then the second thing we're doing, which obviously you've been a part of, Ben, is education of health professionals. So number one, it's important that we get out there to the individual, the person that's looking for health solutions, the person that's looking to reconnect with their body and find out what's right for them. That's super important. But second to that, it's about educating the health professionals to wear that lens that everybody's different and not get caught in the dogma of, well, I believe in paleo because I do paleo and CrossFit, therefore the whole world needs to hear about paleo and CrossFit. Like paleo and CrossFit's amazing and works for some people, but if we get caught in our silo of what we believe, then there's always going to be a client that we work with that won't respond to that methodology that we need to open our minds to. So we run educational courses for medical doctors through to personal trainers in understanding more about the science of personalized health and epigenetics. We go into chronobiology, we go into all that kind of stuff. We teach trainers how to assess the clients and then how to coach them in a way that's right for their unique brain. Because again, even the client walking around right now with this amazing app and all this amazing information, there's some people out there that are going to need support, that are going to need a health professional to assist them on the health journey. So we need health professionals to, number one, understand that everyone's different, and two, be able to provide people with the support and the expertise that they've got to help them achieve the goals.
Yeah, I think information's everywhere, brother. Information is everywhere, and one of the biggest reasons that people say they come to a personal trainer or a coach is having that accountability. You know, so a combination of the two, where you've got the accountability of a coach, but then you've also got the research and studied out stuff about the epigenetics, chronotyping, all that type of stuff, is a great mix. A great mix.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent,
mate. Kyle, I have enjoyed immensely talking to a beautiful, beautiful fellow Mancunian. But now is the time. Now is the time, and I've got the perfect question for you. This question's been asked a couple of times, right? But I really feel that where you are in the world, it sets you up for success with this question. Who would win a fight between a great white shark and a saltwater croc, and why?
I'm going to say the saltwater croc.
Oh, you've gone against the grain, lad.
Yeah, I'm glad I've done that. You know, and the reason why is because they're a pure reptile and they've got that instinct to just kill. There's no nice mammalian thought process of, it's just pure, I'm going in there, I'm going to grab you, do a little death roll, whatever it's going to be, and game over. So I'm going with the saltwater croc, the reptile, the pure.
I like it, mate. Like the dinosaur, the dinosaur. Yeah. I like it, mate. I think that's phenomenal, brother. So one more time, aside from the saltwater croc winning, you can go on to the App Store and download Shay. You can then go to ph360.me, and you can get your measurements and stuff like that. You can look on there, and then also you can go on ph360.me and find out about the courses and the education you provide.
Yeah. So if you want to kind of speak to us directly with that, we've got a Facebook and an Instagram page. So if you just look for PH360 Health Professionals, you'll find us through social media as well. But yeah, ph360.me is the place for everything, whether you want to get your own assessment done, whether you want to learn about courses. And then once you've got your assessment, you can download Shay from the App Store, and that'll speak to you for your unique brain, and it'll support you and give you meal ideas and all these different things, all based on your unique body, which is really cool.
That's fantastic, my mate. Kyle, thank you very much for being on the show, brother. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to finish it with a go, Kyle Riley!
Thanks for having me on, mate. It's awesome to be on. I appreciate it.
Nice one, brother. Take it easy. Did you know that DTS Fitness Education are actually an education company? That's right. So if you like what you see and you would like a little more, go to dtsfitnesseducation.com and check out our live and online courses.